All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. I don't have a really good name for this one, but basically what this is going to be a workshop on how to use Wicked Whims for your own safe for work poses for your story. Basically talking about how we're going to be taking our stories to the next level. Real quick before we start, I'm going to read the disclaimer I read every time. If you are new here, this will be new to you. If you have been to these before, it's the exact same disclaimer. My cat has started screaming, so that's just going to be happening in the background. So, disclaimer. I do not claim to be the absolute authority on any of the things I'm going to share with you today. There are a million ways to approach every subject. This is just mine. Like everyone, I am a work in progress. I am constantly learning and improving, but I feel knowledgeable enough on these topics to share my process with you. I highly, highly encourage everyone to seek out outside resources, as well as see how other creators accomplish similar or the same task. Above all, I hope these streams and videos can help you find the fun in learning, failing, and innovating along the way. During the lesson, I won't be responding to chat to keep the video as concise and streamlined as possible, but if you have any questions, you can submit them at any time by typing !Q followed by your question, and the bot will collect them and we'll go over them together at the end of the stream. With that said, let's get started. All right, welcome to Advanced Storytelling with Wicked Whims. I don't have a lovely PowerPoint this time. I am so sorry. So Theater of the Mind, nice little PowerPoint. So why are we talking about this? This game, I don't know if you knew, is 10 years old. And for about 10 years, we have been posing basically the same way. So everyone kind of has the same sort of experience where if you want to do like a bed pose, you have to, all the time the Sims are like on top of the bed, or you've got like a alpha blanket. You have people that are making like custom open doors just so that your Sim can be standing next to an open door. But then the problem with that is like you can only use that door. And then everyone has the experience, every storyteller has the experience of having a folder of a million pose accessories that are set to random, they show up on all your townies, conflict with all your other CC and different pieces of the Sim, because we do have that cast map that is only so big, and if you want to do a pose accessory, it has to fit on that 1024 by 2048 map. Textures get sized down, it gets crunchy. The thing is, technology exists for us to be, I don't want to be better, be stronger. I think it's time for us to start thinking about posing and storytelling in sort of a new way. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. This was initially Shubi's idea, was taking the Wicked Whim systems, which already has the framework to summon props, to animate objects, using it for just safe for work, cute little shots. God, wouldn't it be so nice if you could like pose a Sim sleeping in a bed with the covers over of the bed you use? Wouldn't it be so nice if you could open a door in a pose and you don't have to have a second Sim around just to walk through a door? So this is going to be my little allegory of the cave. Something that you can use when you're thinking about, I have this shot in my head, I really want to see it happen, but currently I don't feel like the technology exists. Well, it does, because Wicked Whims is really intelligent, and it's not too hard either. So what you'll need today is a text document. I'm going to post the link again if you do want to follow along, and I'll have this in the YouTube chat as well, or the description. I basically put together a little package, and inside you'll find this text document. And what it has basically is the things you'll need for this and links to everything. As well, it comes with a Wicked Whim setting profile that is just for posing. We'll get into that later. And it also comes with the base XML. It's Turbo's XML. I've cut it down, I've kind of edited it and gotten it ready for you to just do poses with. And we'll go over how to set that up together later. This is an advanced tutorial, so I'm not going to be doing any posing today. I'm assuming that you're already comfortable with posing, as well as storytelling and using poses in the game. So what we'll need for this, we'll need Sims 4 Studio, not only for importing our animations, our clips, but we also need the hash generator that comes in Sims 4 Studio. We'll go over that together later. You'll need Sims 4 PE, which there is a link to the GitHub where that's located. And then you'll need an XML editor or something that you can open up XML on. I recommend Notepad++. It's just a colored XML editor. It makes it very easy to see everything. And then also the file that I include with the base XML, which we'll go over. I have also included a reference link to Turbo's main tutorial, which is just anything we go over with WWIDs, not safe for work warning. Of course, it's a not safe for work mod, but I don't believe that page has any sort of like imagery on it, so hopefully you should be fine there. But just general not safe for work warning, and it is, I can actually bring it up right now. It's incredibly helpful. It goes over everything and also has a link to the main base XML file here, and it's commented. He's written everything up. It's very clear, and it also goes through it piece by piece, explains everything. So if you ever get lost, it's a really great resource. So with that done, let's get into it. So we're going to start with posing two Sims. The reason that I enjoy using WWIDs for posing two Sims is because I use height sliders in my game. I personally think that the Sims, like men in the Sims, are a little short. So I like using Lumia's height sliders, and this only works with Lumia's height sliders. So I personally think they're a little short, so I like to make them a little taller. Problem with that, when you use any sort of pose, couple pose, just regular with like the regular pose player, the hands aren't going to line up, the points of contact aren't going to line up, it's going to look not the way you want it to, and also the faces sometimes get distorted. So what's nice with WWIDs is there is a built-in equalizer, and this was kind of what really sold it for me. There is a built-in equalizer for Lumia's height sliders. So whenever it starts an animation, it equals out your Sims, and so that there is everything's where it should be, all the hands are where they should be, all the points of contact are points of contacting. So this was a test pose that I made because I have two Sims that are, one is very tall and one is very short. And I was like, oh my god, this is gonna solve everything. You guys would not know the amount of time I have spent just trying to get Sims to line up and all of the experimentation. So like in this scene I had like a prop on one of my other Sims, and they passed it to my Sim who was shorter, and the hands didn't line up, and I said, oh, this is gonna be annoying. This was me trying to just get them to a certain level when I was posing them so that they lined up enough because they are non-regular heights. And then, like, of course, all the hands are going to give you the most grief because they always seem to never go where you need them to. So this was a really good solution for those sort of poses where you need the points of contact to line up. So this is what we're going to start with. And I'm going to take you through, we're not going to do any posing, but we will do the exporting. So this is our final pose. I've made sure that I have keyed it. It's all good. So we're gonna just export this as normal. So I've got two characters here, so I'm gonna need to export two files. So let's just start with grabbing these. If you haven't seen my pose tutorial, I also have a supplementary tutorial that goes over exporting things with Fixated's rig. Because I know it can get kind of complicated, but so we're gonna just save these out. So I'm gonna call this kiss_poppy. It's important to name these clearly so you know what they are. I'll bring Ally back. And it looks so fun on its own, doesn't it? And we'll save that as kiss Ally. And that's all you have to do. No, I'm kidding. So we'll close that out. We're good there. So now what we're going to do, hi Kate, is we're going to open up Sims 4 Studio. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a new clip pack. We are going to save this in our file to Sims. And I'm just going to call this temp. So it opens up like a regular clip pack does in Sims 4 Studio. And what we're going to do is we're going to import our exported poses. We don't actually have to name them. We do have to, however, put the right files in so you don't put two at the same time while you're talking. All right, cool. So we have Poppy, and Ale. Okay, cool. So that's good. That's all we need for that. So now what we want to do is we are going to open up Sims 4 PE. And if you haven't used Sims 4 PE before, it could be a little bit confusing. So we'll go real slow with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up that temporary file we just made. And then you're going to get what looks like a bunch of gibberish. What we are looking for here is the clips and the clip headers. So what I've been doing, just to make things easy, is I've been renaming these as I go through the temp files, just so I can see it, because you see it's blank here, so we can give this a name. We get a lot of information. We get a lot of text salad over here. And what we can do is if we scroll down, it'll actually tell us the clip name right here. Right here, source asset name. So this is, I know, Poppy. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to double click this. And then it says use resource name, rename if present. That's all we have to do. And then give it a name. So I'll call this O1 Kiss Poppy. And I'll just copy that so I can use it for Alejandro. And it'll autofill it for the clip header as well, the matching one. And I know this one is Alejandro by deduction. So we'll do the same thing. Double click it, use resource name, rename if present. Alejandro. Or just Ale. All right. So I'm going to save that just because I'm going to keep coming back to this temporary package because it's just easy. And what we're going to do is we're going to select all those, just the clips and the clips headers, and we're going to export to file. And I have a folder on my desktop that I've made just purely for clip exporting, and I call it clip export. It's just something that is temporary, and I delete them when I'm done with them. So I'll just do that. So if we come up, they have situated themselves, and I know there's just four files in here. Very good. So what we're going to do now is we're going to make a new package, completely blank. So that was just file new. And we're going to grab those clips from our folder that we exported, and we're just going to drag them in here and just hit import. You don't have to change anything. So you'll see they're here. They made it. They're labeled. Very good. Now, step 2. That's step 1. What we need to do is set up our XML. Yay! If you've never made CC or messed with tuning, this might be a little bit confusing, but I'm gonna hold your hand and we're gonna go through it together, I promise. And also we're going to need, we'll go get the Sims 4 Studio hash generator. So we're gonna go to tools, hash generator, and we'll just keep this somewhere we can find it off to the side. All right, so let's set this up. One second, please hold. Hi, okay, there we go. Sorry, baby had to go to baby jail. All right, we're gonna walk through this together. So this is the base file. So this is an edited version of Turbo's XML base. And as you can see, there's a lot going on. But if you look at all of this green text, it's all labeled, which is very nice. It's all got descriptions and kind of instructions for what to do with it. We'll go over kind of the anatomy of it, but first let's set it up together for how we're going to have our game recognize it. So what we're gonna do in our hash generator here is we need to give our file a name. And if you've never generated a hash before, which I don't suspect too many people have, but it's something we do for CC a lot, what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your name. So I'll put SurelySims, and then you're gonna do the semicolon. So it's always your creator name, semicolon, and then the name of your file. So I'll call this Wicked Whims posing tutorial. And as you can see, we put that in, it has generated a bunch of numbers for us. And these are just unique values that nothing else in the game shares. Because if the game has a value that it shares with what you've hashed, things go wrong. So what we're gonna do is we are going to grab this number, the FNV64 value, and we're just gonna copy that, and we're going to save as our XML. So we're just gonna go File, Save As, just so we have a nice clean one as a template. And all of these zeros at the end, as well as the base, which is just something I added on, all of these zeros at the end are gonna go away and they're gonna get replaced with that number that you got from the hash generator. The bottom number, the FNV64, goes over all of the last zeros here. Don't worry about these zeros, that's the group number. This just says it's base game. So we're gonna save that, and this is gonna be our new file. This is gonna be what we put all of our animations into. It's just one file, we don't have to do this every time. So now, what we have to do, we have two more things. We're gonna go down here, where it says mode hexadecimal, we're gonna go to decimal. We're gonna grab the FNV64 again, and then we're gonna come up here to the very top. We're gonna come over here to this S equals, and it's currently where it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to paste our decimal version of our FNV64, and then where it says N equals, we're going to grab our text here from our hashed text, and we're gonna paste that right there. And now you have your file set up. You're done with that. And it's that easy, folks. All right, so welcome to this XML. We're gonna go over it. Turbo goes over it in detail on his website, and it's very informative. But I've edited a little bit, but we'll kind of go over the we'll put our animation in that we just did, and we'll kind of go over it together. So every animation you make for Wicked Whims is going to have what is an animation entry, and if I minimize this, you'll see it all is contained in this little U block. So it can go down here. I've left a lot of things in just so you can copy and paste, but a lot of the stuff we're going to be deleting initially. So we'll call this, so first thing we have, this is our display name. This is the display name that comes up in Wicked Whims for the name of the animation. Wicked Whims does not have thumbnails, but part of this sort of course and this kind of idea mindset I'm trying to impart onto you guys is hopefully we have presented it to Turbo Driver as like, hey, you know what would be really cool if we could get a pose player that uses the Wicked Whims system. And he said, oh, okay, that's an idea, but it's not a priority. So we're like, please, if more people are excited about this, maybe he'll do it. So fingers crossed for a brighter future. Anyway, so this is our pose name. So we'll call this O1 couple kiss. And animation author name is always going to be the same one as long as you want it to show up in the same category. So I'll just call, for now, our author name will just be posing tutorial. And don't let me forget that, because I'll be very confused when I go to the game. Be like, who is posing tutorial? Animation locations, this is like your bed, floor, chair. There is an entire list, again, on Turbo's website. You can check the list if you have something specific. We'll go over putting things on furniture later. But it's really great because you don't have to teleport two Sims on top of each other. Another bonus. You just click on the floor and you say, go here. Do it here with these people. It's nice. It's very nice. So we're going to leave this as floor. And if it wasn't like a bed or a chair or something, if you had like a custom location, like I'm going to show you something with a gate later, you can grab a number from in-game and you can put it here. We're going to delete this for now because we're just we're sticking with the good old floor. Object animation clip name. Okay, so we don't have an object we're animating on the floor, so we're going to delete this. So basically, if you had an object like a bed, which we'll go over later, and it has an animation like you've moved the sheets or anything, you need to export that like you would do a person, and then you put the clip name right there. But we don't have that, we're just doing it on the floor, so we're going to delete that, and we'll kind of recircle back to that later. Object geometry state and material state, I just left those in. Basically, if your object is doing something like, if it's, objects have geometry states, like a sandcastle goes from being like not built to being a full sandcastle. So if you wanted to summon like a full sandcastle and not a sad little pile of sand, you would go into the game and look at what it says the name of that geometry state and material state is. But we'll talk about that. I'll show you where to find that when we get actually into the game, but for now we're going to delete these. Animation category, teasing. It's always going to be teasing if you're doing poses. It's just easier, and there's no reason for it not to be teasing. Teasing is like your kissing poses and like anything that's not like actually sex. So I just made it teasing for you guys. Animation loops, if it's a single pose, a pose is only one frame, so we don't want them popping out of it essentially, so I just have it set to like an insane number. Allowed for random, 0. You don't want these allowed for random, because then you'll be if you're actually using WWIDs, they'll pop into your pose, which is weird, and you don't want that. So we keep that at a 0, and then we move on to our actors list. So our actors are our 2 Sims. We have our actor ID, which starts at 0, and I believe you can have up to 10 people in a single animation. So they're always going to start to 0. So we have 2 actors. So our first actor will be 0. Our second actor down here is 1. This is where we put our animation clip name. So similar to the bed. We don't have a bed, but we have a person. And I have this one set for male. So I'm just going to grab Alejandro's clip. So I come over here to where it says clip. And then where it says here, it says clip name. And all I got to do is copy this. And then where it says animation clip name, paste. So that is that. That's easy. Animation type, again, teasing good. Just leave it as teasing. Animation gender is both, so you don't want to give yourself any restrictions for these. If you had it like set for male and you're trying to do 2 females, animation just wouldn't show up in the list. So I have it set as both, but if there happens to be a male that you're doing it with, it will summon the male first. This is just a list of things that we turn off, we don't use, but they're important. We don't need to get rid of it. Where we want them to be in their current outfit. This can force them into different outfits, like everyday formal, whatever. Current outfit, good. Naked type, none. Stay dressed. Nude hands and feet, stay dressed. These are all the things that are just like, stay away. For our actor tags, we use no sweat, so our Sims don't start sweating while they're holding their poses. But I assume if you're holding a pose that long, it would be pretty stressful. But we keep that with no sweat, so our Sims don't start randomly sweating. And that's all we have to do for the actor tag. And all I'm gonna do now is grab Poppy's clip name. Sorry, here we go. We just go to here, clip, not clip header. Clip header will give you nothing. We're just gonna copy that. And we're just gonna paste there. So you can see actor 1, because this is our second actor, starts at 0, goes to 1. Same thing with props, which we'll go over later. But that is our actor number 1, or 2. And with that, we have set it to teasing, both female. It will grab the female if there is one. If there's 2 males, it'll just grab whoever. And with WWIDs, you can switch them. It's all easy. And then that's basically all we have to do for that. And all of this down here is optional. So we have our props. If we're using props, this is where we'll put them in. If we have an event, like we want to summon an effect, which we'll go over at the end, this is where we put it. But right now, we don't need to think about that, so we're done. We are done with our first animation. So what we'll do is we're gonna save our file. And we're gonna close this out. Well, we can keep it open. We're gonna save our file, and we'll see we have, this is our base, and this is our new one, because it's got our nice little lovely hash there. And what we're gonna do is we are going to bring it into our Sims 4 PE package. We're going to make sure the window shows up. There we go. I'm just going to drag this into our Sims 4 PE package. We're going to hit OK. Don't have to do anything else. It shows up here. XML. Good. Cool. Save. File. Save. And we have to give it a name. I'm going to put it in my test folder with my poses. And I'm going to call this Wicked Whims Workshop Files Poses. I don't know. Something like that. That name does not matter. Just the name of your XML. So what we can do is we have to close Sims 4 PE at this point if we want to start the game. The game will not start if Sims 4 PE is open. But what we can do is we can go find our file, and just to double check it, because sometimes XML is tricky, things will go wrong, things won't line up. Turbo has a link on his website to like an XML verifier, XML validation. I haven't clicked that, but it might be something to look into if you're having trouble. Basically what we were doing is you can just open it up in Sims 4 Studio, and if it gives you an error, you'll know something is wrong. But since we don't have an error, it's working. We squeezy, boys, we squeezy. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna launch the Sims. So while that's loading, I'm going to talk to you about the next one we're going to tackle. So right now we just did 2 Sims, floor, easy. We'll show you that one that we get in. So what would be next is posing Sims with props. So this is kind of the, if you're not using height sliders, this is the kind of reason you would take the effort to put your poses in Wicked Whims, because cast accessories are a nightmare. And if you have a pose in mind, like you say, oh, it would be really cool if my Sim was playing the guitar here, but not the EA animation. I'd like him to sit down and play the guitar. But cast accessories are hellish. So I just won't do it. No, stop that thinking right now. We can do this. We're not going to talk about a guitar, but that's the theory. Basically, any object in the game you can summon as a prop. I have summoned, I was gonna start with the walkie-talkie, but let's go hard first. Let's go crazy, let's get wild first. So let me open up this file for you and we'll talk about it while my game loads. So I think this is the most things I've ever summoned in a scene. So with Wicked Whims, we can cheese it a little bit, because you know you can't use Wicked Whims with children for very good reasons. Very valid reasons. But what you can do is you can combine Wicked Whims, cheat it a little bit, and with regular pose player. So essentially what I had for the scene is I have an adult rig down here that is controlling the table and summoning all of these props. So everything you see here that's not a table or a child, I am summoning in the game. And I'll show you how to do that. It's not too hard. And the game is pretty kind when it comes to, like, I don't know what I'm saying. I was just loading my game. Anyway, so screwdriver, the record player, the chairs, the notebook, the pencil have all been summoned. The kids are regular pose player. They're just aligned with the table, and we try to get the timing right, essentially. So that's why I gave myself a lot of like room when I make poses with Wicked Whims, because it's such a pain to change them. I usually just make them in little animations, and not even a real animation, just like pose to pose. So this is 3 poses essentially. And I just have them set up here on the timeline. They're just keyed about 50 frames apart, because there is some dissonance between the because you have to wait for the kids to finish their animations, and then the regular pose player starts like immediately. Wicked Whims pose player has like a startup time, so you kind of have to like sit there, pause and unpause and time it and get it perfect. So I gave myself some wiggle room, so at least they would overlap most of the time. I'll kind of show you what that looks like in game. So welcome to the test box. It's very safe, I promise you. It's a new crest. I decorated it for the occasion. Anyway, welcome to our little test box. So we're gonna use this to show off like poses and stuff. But let's first go over how to get our Wicked Whims set up for posing. So with that file that I included in the package, that goes into your, I have it listed in the text document, but that goes into the your saves folder actually. So it goes in saves, Wicked Whims, mod, settings, profiles, and you just drop it in. After he updated it, it used to be harder to share settings with each other, but after you updated it, it made it really easy. So thank you, Turbo. In the test box, we use the arcade carpet because it is the great equalizer, and we have it set up like an IKEA. So what you would do after you drop those in your settings folder, or your settings profile folder, and you have loaded your game, don't do it while your game's loaded. That's bad juju. You just go to Wicked Settings, you click on the floor, you go to Settings Profiles, switch, and then you should find mine at the bottom. It's just called Wicked Whims Posing. And that's it. So we're gonna talk about some harsh realities of this, okay? Who wants to hear about the harsh realities of cheating this thing to pose? It gets weird, okay? So with these poses, I use them between family members, which means I had to turn on the nasty switches so I can pose. That's why I don't use this for gameplay. If you think about it too hard, it gets bad, okay? But we're doing what we can. I'd rather have my Sims line up than have to think about the ramifications of my own actions. I have it turned off so that I have the settings turned off that so people don't go running and screaming every time you initiate like a sex action, because essentially that's what you're doing to get these cheated poses. That's why I set it all up for you. It's just, don't think about it too hard. Just use it for what it is and play with different settings that aren't hellish in your regular game. I also have it set up so they don't automatically go to another animation, so they should stay in their animations. Oh yeah, this is Rainbow Dash. I gave her a ball pit. Anyway, so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you this pose we just brought in. So when you come in, it should tell you that you have a new animation available. From posing tutorial, we have one new animation. That means you did it right. That is good. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go click on the floor. We're gonna go sex, teasing, and we're gonna click on our two Sims. Hi Amy, how are you doing? We're gonna go to posing tutorial, and there it is, couple kiss. That's what we wanna see. Hopefully we exported everything and it looks correct. It does. So these are two Sims that are actually very different in height, but as you can see at the bottom, it's evened it out. Ugh, Tall Poppy's so scary. It's evened it out. And so they all line up. So our points of contact are points of contacting. She's a little thicker than when I made this pose originally, but it's way easier. The hands are where they should be. The lips are making contact. We love to see it. So that's that, and you just hit X, and then it's all good. Then you're done. So that'll hold that'll hold basically as long as you need it to hold. And then as you see, she comes out, she gets popped back down. She's much shorter now. So that is kind of the basics of, if you use height sliders, that's a really good solution. It's a great solution. So let's talk about that scene that we had set up and we talked about with the table. I'll just show it to you really quick. So here's all the pieces that I pulled out of the game. When you're summoning a prop, what you have to do is you have to be able to pull that prop up in game. So if it's something like, I found this clipboard in Sims 4 Studio from Eco Lifestyle, but I couldn't find it in Debug. So what I had to do is I had to clone it in Sims 4 Studio and make it buyable, which is a whole other can of worms. But basically any sort of prop you can find in the game, you can summon. So what we're gonna do is we need to get what are called GUIDs, G-U-I-D, and they are these long strings of numbers if it's CC, much shorter strings of numbers if they're EA items. So these ones should be okay. And so for every prop we want to summon, we need to get the GUID. So what you do is you just shift click on it, you go to Wicked, and you go to Display Object Information, and you get this long pop-up. And the only thing we need to know is this number here, if it's a prop. So this number here. So what I'll often do is, while I have this open, I'll have Sims 4 Studio open, and I will export the model that I'm going to be posing with, and I will give it, like, I will name it Chair Cordelia _ this number 52972. This is an important number. We'll need it for later. Another thing to note is, if with props, the GUID is swatch specific. So if you wanted to summon one specific swatch, you have to make sure you're clicking on that swatch. It will summon that swatch of that thing. If you want it to cycle between like a couple different swatches, you can put a couple different GUIDs in there, and then it'll just kind of decide which one it wants to use randomly. But that is important to note. So what I would do is I would come through all of these, and I would go Display Object Information, export my chair, write this down, write down this GUID number. For objects, Turbo has a whole list on that tutorial that I linked to you. So if you want an animation to show up on like any sort of general object, like any bed, like I didn't decide to put like a character in this bed specifically. Oh yeah. This one's gonna look silly because I don't have an accessory on her. Oh wait, no, I think I summoned the accessory. Did I? No, it's an accessory. That one's gonna look a little silly, but this is not the bed that I used. I just said bed. So there's that. There's like generalized locations, but if you have a specific location you want your sim to be using, you need to get a different value. So again, Wicked Display Object Information, instead of the GUID, we would copy down the Wicked Whims ID, which is this number here. It's right above the GUID, 647855556. Again, for EA objects, these are much shorter. If it's a custom object, it's going to be a lot longer. So like these posters are recolors by Nublet, who's been recoloring and converting all of the Fallout material to Simlish, which is amazing. But if I was to go Display Object Information, you'll see the GUID is much longer, and then your eyes turn to soup. But you copy it down, and I hope you did it right, and double check it a few times. But yes, so that's what we're doing. The goal next would be to do this pose, which would be, I pulled the wrong file, so I'm gonna have to take a quick break to grab it. But the goal next would be to grab this Around the Sims radio and summon it as a prop, because I wanted to use a walkie-talkie. Around the Sims made a walkie-talkie. I didn't want to convert it to a pose accessory. So what I've been doing instead is summoning the whole thing. I found that there's some issues with the shadow mesh with this, so it might be different object to object. This is technically a radio, so maybe it's having trouble with that. Most of the time it's okay. But so what I would do is I would go Wicked, again, Display Object Information. You get a very long GUID because it's custom content, but you export the model as you would with any sort of pose accessory you wanted to pose with, and you write this down in the name of the file. That's not important, it's just helpful. So if you ever want to use it again, you have that GUID, you don't have to look it up again. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Oh, and I can show you really quick how this works with the kids, because I'm not going to show you how to export all these. It's very intensive. So what we do is we go teasing, one person, one animation, math homework. What we also need to do is we need to summon our children, not summon, we need to teleport our children. Come here, children. Then, gosh, I think I did yes, okay. So, children do an idle. Wicked Whims has a startup time. You have to wait for the idle to stop. And hopefully, if you get the timing right, it might take you a couple tries. But if you get the timing right, hopefully you can. Also, searchable pose player out now. Incredible, by the way. Very useful. Thank you for that, Twisted Mexi. Go check that out if you haven't already. So we're just using regular pose player for this. They're leaf blowing outside, which is incredible timing, by the way. But we will push through. So we can grab that and hopefully, there we go. Oh, I think we nailed the timing this time, actually. And so now we have our furniture and we have all of the objects. As you can see, I have animated this notebook. So I've actually opened it because the homework in the game does open. So what I will show you what I had to do to get this effect. But essentially what I've done is I've sent Poppy into the earth. And this is all being summoned by her while the kids are on the just regular pose player. We're a little bit off. That's kind of how it happens. That's why I like to give myself like a bunch of frames. So I can just get that shot because we're not worried about it animating. We're worried about getting a screenshot. But you can see I didn't have to pose this. They can sit in the chairs like little weirdos as God intended, which is my favorite. I love how kids sit in chairs, and I just had this sort of visceral image of how I wanted the scene to look. And he can help her with her math homework. So that, I had an issue where they like popped out of it last time. That was weird. Anyway, but we'll just hit the X on that and then it's all good to go. She pops right back. So we're gonna leave the game. We're gonna say goodbye to the game for now. Because I already have all those numbers. I don't need to write anything down, but if you needed to grab a pose accessory or a custom location, this would be a good time to do that. So we're gonna start by summoning a prop, just a floor pose. So we haven't moved on to objects or furniture yet. So we're doing another floor pose, but this time we're gonna be summoning this walkie-talkie. Hey, okay. So I have this walkie-talkie. I have pulled it from SimSource Studio, just kind of opened up the model as you would, exported the mesh as you would. And when I do that, it comes out. Oh, I pulled it actually from here. Whoops. That's less helpful. But that's okay. It's currently got its rig on it. That's got animations. So I'm just going to clear those and kind of show you what it would look like. Oh, hot tip, by the way. Something I didn't go over in my posing tutorial, but if you want to have a really quick hotkey for, I'll turn on my screencast keys just while we're here. If you don't want to be hitting I, lock, rot every single time, what you can do is you can come into object mode, select your rig, go to animation, change keying set, and change that to location rotation. So now, when you go into pose mode and you want to pose something, if you hit I, it'll immediately add your keyframes to location rotation. Just something to keep in mind. It just makes everything really a lot faster, which is nice. So this is how our walkie-talkie would come in. And let me grab someone that's not Vera so that they don't have anything on them. Just as an example, I'll grab Alejandro. So what I'll do is I would probably just keep this somewhere safe that I can get to it. I'll put it with him. You want to make sure it's on its own rig. So in modifiers, object, walkie rig, you can rename this to whatever. I'm going to make our walkie-talkie unselectable as we don't want to move it in object mode. Like with posing, you don't want to move it in object mode. You want to move everything in pose mode. Actually, what I learned how to do, because previously I was moving it for every pose and it was really annoying because I would have a pose and then I would move the walkie-talkie to line up with the pose, and then I'd do another pose and I'd move the walkie-talkie to line up with the pose, and it was really annoying. So actually something we can do is we can parent objects to the stigmata. So it's like having a prop that is assigned to the stigmata, so you can move it wherever you want. But this is an object in the game, and we're just going to have it follow our character, so we don't have to make a pose, move the prop up, yada yada. It'll act like a pose accessory in Blender. So what we're gonna do is, if I wanted this in his hand here, I would come here. I want to click on my stigmata. This is Fixated's rig. It's a lovely rig. I've gone over it before. I'm going to hit Shift S. I'm going to hit cursor to selected. And this is going to go pop the 3D cursor onto the stigmata bone, exactly onto the stigmata bone. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our transform bone on our walkie-talkie. I'm going to hit Shift S, selection to cursor. Now it has popped. They are perfectly laying on top of each other. So if I would move the stigmata bone, I would move the walkie-talkie. But we have a few more extra steps. But what I would do now is kind of just get it in a good position. I'm just rotating. I'm not hitting G. You want to keep it on the stigmata so that it's going to move a little bit easier. So don't hit G, but you can rotate it kind of into a better position. And then I would do that. So our last step to get this parented to the stigmata bone is we're going to come down here to this little blue, kind of looks like a ham with a bone through it. It's our bone constraints. Click up here. We're going to go to child of. So we are going to take this bone. We're going to parent it to Alejandra's stigmata. We will grab our eyedropper where it says target. We'll just grab Ali's rig. And then we're going to parent it to bone, and if we want to, we can search, and this is his left stigmata. Oh no, something bad happened. That's okay. We're gonna set inverse. You just click this button, set inverse. And if we cleared it, you see it goes back to being off like that. So now what you can do is, sometimes I'll like hide it, but I think you should be okay to leave it. But now if we move our stigmata bone, we are moving the walkie-talkie with it, which was very helpful when I figured it out, because I was getting really tired of moving everything with it. So we switch over to Vera. We'll hide her rig for now. So she's got the same thing. It's parented to her hand. I have two poses for her. She's talking to someone on the radio, sitting on the ground. And so what you would do now to get this out, I'm trying to think, was there anything else that was important? So we would export these now. So now, instead of 2 sims, we're going to need to export our sim and then our prop. So what we'll do is we'll highlight our rig, and then since it's an animation, I have it keyed at the front and the back of the animation, which is very important. You don't have to key it every time, just front and back for Fixated's rig. And I'm going to hide our walkie rig. I've already done that, and I'll just save this out as Vera. And then what I'll need to do, since the walkie-talkie is parented to the controller, so similarly to the way we export a person, we're going to have to export the walkie-talkie. So it's not hard, but what happens is you click on the walkie-talkie rig, make sure you're in pose mode, make sure it's keyed at the front and the end, so it's keyed similarly to the way we would do a rig. Make sure your controller is visible but not selected. So this is our rig plus. We want it visible but not selected. We want walkie rig blue. And then what we do is we highlight everything with A in our 3D viewport, and then we file, save as with walkie rig selected, and we'll name it something like walkie. Ta-da! Okay, you're done. So we'll come back to our temp file, and let's throw in our new clips. Also, if your animation doesn't show up at all in a list and you know it's in there, you probably mistyped the WWID number. So if like you have a prop in your animation and it doesn't show up in the list at all, you've mistyped a number. So you need to double check on the WWID number. So we'll save this, and we'll come back to a Sims 4 PE. We'll reopen our temporary file. It should be in our recent packages. You'll see it comes in, and we've got 4 new blank ones, so we're going to rename them like we did the last ones. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to highlight all of our new stuff. We're going to export it to file. I already have my clip export selected. It keeps it selected. And that's all we're doing here. We can save it so we have that for later and we're not shuffling around in the dark trying to figure out where things are. We'll come back to our workshop file poses and we're just going to open up our clip export like we do. We're going to grab our clips, drag them in, hit OK, and it brings it in with the names and everything. And then I just delete these clips because you can always get them again later. So we can save that and we're going to work on our XML real quick. So, new animation. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, grab this again. We're going to make some changes to it. Some big changes, we don't have 2 actors, so we're going to get rid of this one. So we're just taking U to U / U. If you minimize it, that's what it is. And we're just going to delete that because we don't have 2 actors. We do need to add a prop. We also need to give it a name. So we'll call this O2 walkie test. And then we're going to keep the animation author the same, posing tutorial, because we want them to be in the same menu. We want them to be organized. Floor, teasing, all good, all good. Outlawed for random, 0, nothing. So you don't have to change a lot of this once you have it set up. We'll go back to our Sims 4 PE. We need to get our clips names again. So we'll get Vera's name. It's right here, clip name. And we'll put that right here. So that's telling them which animation to use. I'll just do female. It doesn't matter. But since I made it for her specifically, I would do female. It'll still do a male because we have both set here. And now what we need to do is we need to go grab our prop entry. So you'll see end of actor entry -L, and then we have a new L, animation props list. We're just going to copy that. We're going to bring it in, so -L, we want to go under that, paste that in. These are our props. So start a prop entry. We start with actors. Similarly with actors, we start at 0, and I believe we can summon up to 10 things. This is where we're going to put our guide. So prop type basic, we're going to keep that as basic at all times. There's no other type of prop. Prop guide is the number that we got from the game. And if we go to my example files, in props walkie, I have walkie _ and then I put the guide in my file name. It just makes it easy to copy and paste. So that's why I do that. So if I ever want to make another animation with a walkie in the future, I don't have to go look that number up again. Prop animation clip name. This is similar to the clip name for our actor. So we want to go grab the animation for the walkie-talkie. And if we did it right, everything should work. So we just copy and paste. We don't have a geometry state. Similar to our, like any other thing, if your prop was doing something different, if you're summoning a sandcastle that was fully built, that's where you would do this. Geometry state and material states are very similar, but they are different things according to the game. So you just have to look in that big pop-up menu if it says you have a geometry state or a material state, and then just copy that and paste it where it is applicable. But we're keeping it simple today, so we're just going to delete these. And there it is. That's the end of your animation. We're good. We're good to go. I will save that, and then we'll bring in our XML. So when you want to update the XML for Sims 4 Studio, this took me like a second to realize. I'm just going to drag our XML in to this file. It's already in here. So we're going to just hit OK. And when it's replacing something, it does this thing at the top where it crosses out the old one and brings in the new one. That's normal. If you hit save on that, it just kind of goes back to normal. It gets rid of the old one, replaces it with a new one. All good, we're saved, we can close this. And we can restart our game to go look and see if our animation worked. And while we do that, we'll talk about posing. I'll show you a little bit about all of the stuff that was required for that Sunny and Kane pose really quick. And then we'll talk about doing it on objects and furniture. You know, story poses. So for the kids' homework, here are all the props that I had pulled. So you'll see I have the 2 chairs, the homework, the pencil, the record player, and the screwdriver, and I have copied down all their guide numbers, their EA guides. So it's just it's a much shorter string of numbers and much easier. So it's just going to be the kind of rule whenever it's custom content. It's got a very long one because you have to iterate and make sure nothing is overlapping. No 2 numbers are the same. So those are all the props I had to bring in, which meant that every single one of those props had to have an animation file. So if we go over here, we have our main working file. We have our adults that's being summoned. They needed an animation. We have our all of our props that are being summoned, and these are all the animations for them. And then we have our children that are using the regular pose player, and they have their own animations that go just in a regular clip pack or regular sort of pose pack. And then I just kept the clips handy here. So it can get pretty complicated, but you can do some cool stuff with it. But what we're going to do is we're going to move on to talking about posing with furniture. And we're going to start with a bed pose. So I'm going to bring up this test. I got very excited about posing with a bed because that's just like kind of the ultimate sort of like, I wish I could have a cozy little bed pose, but my Sims have to sleep on top of it, so it looks awkward. Or people make like blankets that don't match. People make like posed beds that aren't yours. So what's really nice about the system is you can use your bed. Essentially, with this, we're doing the same sort of thing that we were doing with the walkie-talkie. We're posing it, the bed, like it's a sim. I just have to find my rig for the bed. There we go. So beds are a little more complicated, so that's why I have this dope sheet open to help kind of me figure out what I should be pulling and pushing and what I shouldn't be. Because I just started grabbing points at a certain point. But they all have different points here. So we have like blanket top, we have like pillows. So if you want to move a pillow, there's a pillow trans R. This bed is actually one of Felix's and it was broken, so I had to fix it. Whoops. So yeah, it does not work in game. There's this opacity panel because the beds aren't actually, surprised, there's not actually a full mattress under here. Look at it, I'd be so angry. So the opacity panel just kind of cuts into the bed so that it doesn't look like there's a big gap. So what I did is I posed out this bed just to make it look like he was kind of sitting in it and playing with it and rotating things and getting it to kind of a point that I liked. I moved the pillows. I gave them some squish. There's a phone that lets you squish pillows. And then I saved it out just as normal. So we don't have to have the helper rig for this one. We don't have to highlight it because we're not using the helper rig to control it. So we're just going to save this as bed. That'll be our bed rig. Make sure it's all selected, all highlighted. This isn't an animation, this is just a single pose. And then we'll go and we'll grab Val's rig as normal. Make sure that's all in pose mode. And make sure it's all keyed properly. So rig Val is selected, rig plus is not selected, but everything is highlighted. And then we just save that as bed Val. This might look wrong because this, I believe this file is the broken bed. So I will show you how to put it in, but I'm going to show you the one that actually works in game. But real quick detour, we're going to hop back over to our game because it did finally load. We made that pose with the walkie-talkie. So we're just going to click on the floor. We're going to go to teasing ourselves. That's me. Posing tutorials, walkie test. So you'll see there's not two here because I'm not using two people. It's just one person, so only one comes up. So we have O2 walkie test. So you're not looking through the whole thing at once, just the ones that are applicable to the like situation. So now we'll see that we have our animation and she goes back and forth between it. And we have it summoned. I believe if we, yeah, so for some reason this radio doesn't have a shadow mesh. That's been something I'm fighting with. I'm trying to figure out if that's just like a radio thing, because most of the stuff that gets summoned is solid. So there's still quirks I'm running into. Like I will actually show you, I made some poses for Kayla. Spoiler, that I made some cute little poses. And it's Cabbage like playing a violin badly. And I summoned the bow and the violin itself, so this is just the EA one, but it has the stand, so I couldn't get rid of that. I don't know why. So in the future, I think I would like bring the whole thing down and then like pose it so I could shove the stand into the ground as like a workaround. But that was just something I ran into. Okay. So I'll show you this little bed test. We're gonna put it in, but I'll just show you while we're here. I'll just have Poppy do it. And so it comes up, even though I have it set for male, it still comes up because I have it set for both mainly. But here is the pose in game. So I have it set up so the pillows move and are behind her. The bed is moving. What you can do when you combine pose accessories, like existing pose accessories with summon things, so you can weigh your options. Like, say you have a pose accessory, like when we talk about like more object stuff and we get into it, I'll show you the gate pose. Actually, before we get out of the game, but like I have a pen. I didn't want to summon a pen. That seemed like a lot. So I just used a cast accessory pose pen. I had a cast accessory, or like a hat that I had flying off on Diego. And I had summoned this clipboard over here because this wasn't something that I wanted to turn into a pose accessory. So you can combine the things and just make it work for you and your story. If you're not releasing this, it's just a workaround. So we're gonna play Theater of the Mind. Because I didn't give her a knife. But we're gonna imagine she has a knife in her hand. And then we're just gonna go like this, and she's gonna wake her up. And this is a good time to talk about if you wanted to switch them. I believe you could, it's very easy. You just swap. So if I wanted to have him waking her up, so we have our little animation, and just imagine Theater of Mind, she has a knife in her hand, the bed is moving, it's posed with her, and then we can have this whole little scene on the bed, and it's very entertaining. And I just think about all the cute stuff you could do too. You could have like two Sims like cuddling in bed. It's so adorable. Not just threatening each other with knives. Okay, so that's super fun. Let's go ahead and I'll show you this one before we leave. So this is going to be another sort of situation where we're posing with two Sims, and I'll have Alejandro. I gave him a pen in his other outfit so he can change into that. Whee! Oh, by the way, let's real quick before we get into this, I want to show you, something nice about posing with the Wicked Whims system is that, you know, with regular Wicked Whims and like using Turbo's pose player that he built for it, you have this positioner, but it only does one sim at a time. But if you are actually using this system, it does 2 sims at a time. It does everyone that's involved. It's so nice. And you can come up here, you can hit select positioning participants, and you can change who you want to move around. The one downside to it, and I will have her get out of this, is that it doesn't automatically move props with you, which can get annoying. So if I do posing tutorial walkie test, if I wanted to move her now, you would have to make sure, I'll show you, because when you start moving her, the walkie stays in place. That's a little annoying. We can reset it. We can go select positioning participants. We can include the walkie-talkie, and now you can move it together. It does change. If you have more than one that you're doing, it will like reset. So I had a series of animations, or a series of poses that I was doing where I summoned a phone, because I didn't want to use a phone accessory, or because I wanted my sim to be wearing a hat, and I didn't want to figure out where to put it on the UV map. So I have my sim on a phone, and then I actually did sequences for this one, which we won't be talking about today, but that is something that's pretty easy, and you can look at in Turbo's thing. So I have it next, it'll go, I can cycle through, and then it'll go to the different animation. But yeah, if I wanted to position her, like if I wanted to move the whole chair, it would leave her behind. So every time the animation changes, you're gonna have to redo this. That's kind of the downside to it, but at least you can sort of do this. And you can still move people with tool as well. Like you're not limited by that. So let's go ahead and let's look at this gate pose. So this gate pose is a custom location that I did. So I wasn't sure how to just say do it on a gate. Like let me click on a gate. So what I did is I came to Wicked Display Object Information. I grabbed this Wicked Whims ID, and then I set it as a custom location, which I'll show you in the XML how to do that a little later. So you just grab that same thing with a pose accessory or any sort of piece of furniture. You export the mesh, for instance, for Studio. Just label it in your file just so you know what it is and you don't forget it. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go teasing Alejandro, and there's only one thing because it's only one gate. And then we're going to summon the horse here, and it's going to do, no, we're not going to summon, we're going to teleport the horse here. Come here, Rainbow Dash. And Rainbow Dash is going to do an idle. And we're going to hope that by the time it starts, they have finished their idle. And I actually did this with a horse and a dog, I believe. There we go. So then they come in, and we have, voila, we have opened a gate. We have moved water. We have parted the sea. We have a gate that's halfway open. For like a storyteller that works with poses, that's insane. Like have a gate just like kind of have, it's so much fun. So we have her posing with the horse. It lines up perfectly because it's evened out her height sliders. Don't worry about that finger, it's probably my fault. But so we have her posing with this horse, and we close the gate, and then we have him with his pen accessory, and then summoned clipboard, which at this point I didn't know how to parent the prop to the bone, so I was moving this every single time, and it was kind of insane. And then they can go through their whole little scene, and that's why I like to do post to post, so there's a lot less clicking, and then he gets shit kicked out of him. And then he's just gonna sign my clipboard, and then she walks away. So we're just gonna say goodbye to this for now, and we'll come back to putting in our bed XML. So we're going to open back up Sims 4 Studio, and then we're going to go ahead, grab our temp package, and then we're going to go to 03, objects, furniture, bed pose, and we're importing Okay, we'll close that. We'll open up Sims 4 PE again. And much like we did last time, it's going to be the same process. You're going to learn real fast that repetition is key here. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll copy, we'll export to file, go, hit OK, close that, reopen, recent packages, poses, yes, I'll save this. Clip export, drag, drop, OK. It's very similar to the things that we've done the last 2 times. Are we starting to get the picture? So we'll let that stew over there, and then we'll add in our new pose. So we have just one sim. I'll just copy and paste this. We're gonna need to go grab some other stuff though. So bring this in. Oh, also it's very helpful if you just like name these. If you can write anything you want in the green text essentially. There's if it's not going to affect the package. As long as the text is green, you're good. So I would name this like Kiss, O2, Walkie, just for your own sort of organization's sake. O3, bed. We're not going to look at this one in game because I'm fairly certain the bed that I've rigged it on was broken in that file. So I don't want to be like, ta-da, it's broken. So that's why we kind of looked at it earlier. But we would call this O3 bed test. So now we are not using the bed or the floor. So we would change this to bed, and we can go look at Turbo's list of places and things. So we would come to our handy dandy little reference sheet, which is incredible. And then here's all the location categories. So we have bar counter, we're looking for bed, double bed. See, there's 1,000 places. So double bed. If it wasn't something, it was like a gate. If it was like the sliding window from high school years, we would use a custom location. So we would want to go grab this again from our base file, which is why it's very helpful to keep this around. So we would grab these strings here. And then you would put, so you put none, and then you would put your custom location. So that was what I did for the gate. That's what I did for the window, I believe. So, but this is just a double bed, so it's fine. It'll show up on every single double bed. What we do need to go get is the clip name, much similarly to the way we had to go get it for the walkie-talkie. Just find our clip. We would grab this, copy that, and paste that there. And since it is just a bed and we're not using a custom location, we don't need that, but that is where you would put it. And so that is our bed animated. And then we'll grab our man animated. And make sure you're just naming everything really well so you know what everything is and you don't confuse yourself. Very important when working with XML. So I'd set that like that. Male doesn't matter though, because we have, again, that both. And then it's gonna go to teasing, no sweat, everything. We don't need a prop. We don't have a prop. So we're gonna get rid of that. And we're done. That's how you do it. Woo. And then that would be posing on a bed. And then we would just again save this. Go grab our file from where we put it, drag it in like we did last time, hit OK, it X's it out. That's good. It means it replaced it. And you hit OK, and then you're good to go. And you can take it into the game, you can test your pose. And if something goes wrong, you probably either, if it doesn't show up, like if you click on your custom location and the Wicked menu does not show up, you probably typed the number wrong for the Wicked Whims ID. By the way, this is the custom location is not the GUID number, it's the Wicked Whims ID. So in that long sort of pop-up that we get for the custom location, you're not typing in the GUID, you're typing in the WWID number for your custom locations on the bed. So that's what this is. Or the fence, in this case. Important to remember the distinction there. I can show you a couple more that we did with custom. I'll show you just the custom location for this. I actually put this in a file, so I didn't name them here. And then I gave it like category. I just reminded myself category none. This is the Wicked Whims ID. So the WWID, that's an E. WWID ID, and then this is a prop, so it's this feed. And it's the reason it's so long, even though it's an EA item, is again, I had to clone it from Sims 4 Studio, make it buyable, because I couldn't find it in the catalog, which is tough. Because you have to be able to find it in the catalog, because you need to be able to get this number to summon it. And this number only exists in game. So I'll show you, this is the setup for the horse scene. So we have, this is a hat, it's an accessory hat that I made so I could fly off of his head, because I was feeling extra that day, I guess, and I hated myself. And I just wanted to do a lot of like cowboy hat tipping this arc. So I made his hat and I assigned it the stigmata. So you see that he comes in, we have a dog pose, we have a horse pose, we have the gate pose, we have the pen in his hand, which is an accessory because we don't have to worry about that, but we have the clipboard, which is an object that we're summoning, so we do have to worry about that. And then we go through the animation as you saw. Things go south. The clipboard goes flying, it's on its own rig. The pen is on its stigmata, so it's over here. I believe we go to the next pose. The hat comes into play. There's the hat, flies off his head. It's on the other stigmata. And that's just a cast accessory. And then things go south, and then he hits the ground, and the hat's over here. So at this point, I would use the Wicked Whims Undresser to change his outfit. So he's not currently wearing this hat, he's wearing the accessory hat. And then, yep, he hands her the pen, and he gets a little kiss from his dog. And that's that whole scene. So the dog and the horse are posed normally. Then I'll show you another one I really liked, which was from Kayla's Q today, Dr. Simcraft's Q, which I made these poses. And I was very excited about it, and it uses the high school years window. You ever wanted to open a window? You ever wanted to open a door? I love that. I love that I could just make a pose and open a door. That's incredible. Just because we've been living with it for so long, not being able to do that. But the high school years window lets you open it because it's rigged. So this is, I used Sunny as a stand-in, but I believe I had Lou. So in this scene, Lou is asking out Vi to prom. I removed the glass, but the window is down here. So if we play this, I actually animated it because I was like, be fun. I don't know. So she opens the window. She sees Cabbage just like playing. Cabbage is on his own in his own little animation, so we're just theater of the minding it right now. But she sees Cabbage playing the violin very badly outside, and then hark, here comes a boy. And then they have their own little scene, and I got to animate this window, which was really fun. So you can move it wherever, but if you constrain it to the Z axis, you can kind of animate it up and down, which is really, really fun. So the same thing would be if it was like a door. It would have a bone to let you rotate it. So you would probably rotate it more like this, and you would just pose it as you would any sort of sim. So that's how you do that. And then this is also another one I used a custom location for. So I did go in, shift click on the window, and with the Wicked Whim ID number, which is not swatch specific. So you don't have to worry about swatches for the Wicked Whims ID number. The guide is swatch specific, but the Wicked Whims ID number will work on all the swatches of that window. Last thing I want to talk about, and we'll look at this when we go into game next time. The last thing I want to talk about is, if you're still here, you're still breathing, take a breath. You're doing good. Don't worry about it. This is just the possibilities. Think about how fun it would be to open a door. How fun it would be to have your Sims like open a freaking door. Open a door that's in your house that you already placed. It's just little things, man. So the last thing I had to figure out, this is kind of the last thing keeping me like from doing this tutorial. I figured it out yesterday. Shubi already did the legwork and I just kind of copied her. But events are things like adding effects to your animation. So I have a scene where I want to have my cowboy smoking a base mental cigarette, but I wanted to have him animate a little bit. But the important part was I wanted the cigarette to smoke. And I kind of got it. I'm still messing with it a little bit. But essentially, what's important is the cigarette is a prop that we summon from the game. So I just made a base mental cigarette buyable so I could summon it and easily find it in CAS. And then you animate it as normal. You export it as normal as you would for a sim and a prop. But the important thing you have to do, so this is the base mental cigarette here, and this is what I used to pose. And if we go to rigs and slots, we will see that it comes with an effects bone, which is important. You can add an effect to any bone. You don't have to add it to just the effects bone. If it's got a bone, you can add an effect to it. That's important to know. So I'm just gonna walk you through how I set it up in the my file, because I just did this yesterday. So we have our regular sort of name, author name, our location. I just have this as chair dining, which seems to be an odd one. I'm still figuring out the chair situation. And then I have my actor. So I have Diego. I have him set to female for some reason. It's fine. It just pulls it no matter what. I have my prop. So it's a long number because it's CC. I have the animation for the prop. Since I parented it to a bone so it would follow his hand, I had to export it where I had the rig selected and the controller rig visible and highlighted like we went over. And then we have, after props, we have our events list. So a lot of this stuff in the events list you're not going to worry about because no one's undressing or removing condoms. I hope. I don't know. Live your little freak life. But what we are interested in is effects. So I stole this straight off Shubi, basically. So we're just using an effect. We want to have it start at the beginning of the animation, so it says 0 here. And it want to have it end. It says put a really long number. I had an issue, and I'll show it to you in game, where it seemed to be starting and stopping. So I'm still playing with this as well, but I did want to touch on it. And then you have to, then after that you have your target. So this is a little confusing, but if you read what Turbo wrote, so event target that represents an actor numerical ID. So AO is actor 0. So if you remember, the first actor starts with 0, the second actor is a 1, 2, and so on. So you would do A and the number of the actor. Or if it's a prop, it would be PO1, 2, so on. And O is just the object. So like if it was Shubi had used a bathtub and summoned steam for it. And so if we look in the base file, I've included kind of the raw sort of like effect, his example, and then I've included Shubi's example. So Shubi did it on a bathtub and summoned steam, water, and bubbles. And so she just did 3 of these essentially. She had 3 event entries. And you have to go find the effect you want, and we'll kind of talk about how to do that when we go back into game. And then you find the joint that it goes on. So the joint name is our bone that we're parenting it to, essentially. So in this instance, it's our effect bone, because I wanted to do cigarette smoke. I was trying to dig up what effect that that base mental uses for smoke. I wasn't able to do it, but I just referenced Hamster Bell's, it has this little smoking ashtray that she made, so I just stole the effects that she picked from that. But you can go through the entire sort of effects library, and I'll actually show you how to do that right now. So this is something Rob Machine showed me. If it has an effect, you can change it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go Tools in Sims 4 Studio, Generate List, VFX. So this generates a list of every effect in the game. So fun fact, effects are all base game. So effects are anything that like don't scale with an object. Like, so think about like the frog and that little bin in Bat2. If you scale it down, the frog stays the same size, or like specters, or the cow plant from Paranormal. When you size down that cool cow plant that animates, the cow plant doesn't size down, but the cage around it will, because the cow plant's not, I don't want to say not real, it's an effect. So what I do is I will generate this list with Sims 4 Studio, just come in here, Control-A, Control-C, Control-V, and save this somewhere safe. So I will just, for now, I'll save it on my desktop. And then what I would do now is I would say I want to find smoke. And I would search, cannot find smoke. Okay, well, we're at the bottom, so maybe we go up. There we go, there's some smoke. And then you just kind of, well, I'll show you what we're gonna do when we get into game, but you get all of these different Bonehilda elevator smoke. Sure, bestie. Okay, so we'll load back into game. All right, I'll show you real quick the smoking animation. So this will be the last thing that we show off, and then we'll be done. So there you go. We have an effect coming off the cigarette. Oh, that's just kidding. I have to go through how to select effects. I lied, but there we go. We have an effect coming off the cigarette. It does stop, so I'm trying to figure out like what that loop is like. And it's not a perfect animation, but it works for screenshots. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on there. All right, last quick thing, picking effects and figuring out which effects you want to use. Oh, and I could show you Violet's thing with the window because I did set it up, so I might as well use it. Player. So it's a studio effect player. It's by Andrew. There's a link to it in the text document. You downloaded my zip file. And I'll repost that at the end of the stream, the zip file. But this little guy right here, this is a very volatile little guy. Before you start messing with this, you should read the post that it links to and also save your game. But essentially, if you're just doing one, we're pretty safe. But I've crashed my game many a time by doing this wrong. So what we would do is we would come to our effects here. See if I can get this working right. So we'll find our effects. So if we wanted to do Bonehilda elevator smoke, we would copy that. And then we go back into our game. And we just hit like that. And now we can see what the effect looks like. So when you're trying to pick out effects, this is what you do. You go through, you look at the list, you say, candle making smoke. What does that look like? And then you go select effect. That's just a little puff. Yeah, so essentially that's what you do. You go through the whole list. It's a very long list, but like searching for like splash. And I do this a lot. I just use this a lot in storytelling as well. Cause like, actually, let me show you like cannonball. Recently I had Sunny jump off a pirate ship, and then I just had her fall into the water. But instead of actually like, cause you can't jump from a second story in this game, cause game's bad. No, I'm just kidding. I had her just have a little effect splash, so she wasn't even in the shot. It was just an effect I used. It was an illusion. So that's what I did. I just used that, and then you can like replay it and do so much things. You just have to hide the tiny little guy, but don't lose him. But yeah, essentially that's how you would select an effect, and then you would just take this string and then you put it on the right here, the effect name. So if we wanted his cigarette to instead splash, we would replace candle smoke with the cannonball splash. So that would be very interesting to see, actually. But yeah, so that's that. That's that, and then we'll just end. Let's look at this little window. That's build mode. We'll look at this little window animation. And if you're doing this with teens, you have to look into that yourself, man. You gotta make your own choices, because Wicked Whims doesn't automatically let you do stuff with teens, so figure it out. I'm not encouraging anything. But again, if you want to pose with teens, and sometimes it does get a little wonky, so sometimes you have to add people to the household if you're trying to do it with like Sims that aren't your own. So there is some like kind of funkiness. So currently he is buried in the ground, and she's looking at a sim. We're theater of the minding it. She's looking at a sim on the sidewalk. This is a second story window. She's talking. She's like, "What the hell are you doing? But where have you been, Bello? Where have you been, Loca?" And then we pop back, and then sometimes when I'm like zooming in like this, they don't pop in correctly. And then he's like, "Hello, how are you doing? May I romance you?" So essentially that's how it goes, and I won't tell you how it ends, but that is the end of our stream. So thank you guys so much for watching, for coming along, and for listening to me talk about this for just the most insane amount of time. I hope you guys learned something. I hope it's excited you mostly, and I hope that on the horizon there is gonna be some fun stuff happening, and people can use this in their own stories and just make it feel that much more real and immersive. And I hope we can all bully Turbo together to make us a new pose player. But thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you so much for hanging out. And that's gonna be the end of our tutorial. And goodbye, YouTube. Have a good day.